seemed like just recently, miracles happened under the cover of night in Moldova. Almost like a news story. Back then, during the elections, the whole country voted for former prosecutor Alexander Stoyanoglu instead of Sandu. But Brussels and the diaspora got involved. Moldovans abroad supposedly voted so actively that there were 90,000 more voters compared to the first round. There's no point talking about the number of violations, just as the observers ignored them. And if you remember that the embassy in Russia, with 500,000 citizens, issued only 10,000 ballots, it becomes clear that only one candidate could become president. And it wasn't a man. But to avoid a repeat of the first round's fiasco, they decided to play it safe. They shouted that Moscow was interfering in the elections. Well, how could it be without them? But it blew over. Otherwise, it would have been like it is now in Romania.
Moldova has faced an unprecedented attack in all of European history. Dirty money, illegal voter bribery, involvement of hostile foreign forces, and criminal groups in the electoral process, spreading lies and inciting hatred and fear in our society.
So many epithets. Well, she already won. She could have kept quiet. But Maia couldn't be stopped. Everyone realized then that the scheme worked just fine. Especially for countries where people flee in search of a better life. They continued in Romania. There were surprises there, too. In the first round, TikTok star Călin Georgescu unexpectedly took the lead. And then, as they say, things took off. The plan was apparently ready even for Chișinău. The poor frontrunner was not only removed from the race by the Constitutional Court, but almost arrested with a whole show and masquerade. Basically, they tried to scare him so much he wouldn't dare raise his head.
Our democracy is under threat. We see party bosses trembling with fear. They're afraid of losing power and privileges, of returning to the insignificance from which they came. Essentially, on this day, Romania's corrupt system showed its true face and made a deal with the devil.
Well, devil might be a bit much, but Brussels fits just fine. They had a plan and followed it to the letter. It seemed no one could stop a pro-European candidate from coming to power. But then he appeared. The knight in shining armor, George Simion, who drew Georgescu and his voters to his side. He won the first round triumphantly, getting as much as 41% of the vote. He only needed another 9% or so to have the presidency in his pocket.
Romanians are upset. It's not every day that elections are cancelled in an EU member state. In fact, it's never happened before. So, of course, Romanians want change, and I represent that change. Not the government's candidate, not the current mayor of Bucharest. I'm someone who's never been in government and never partnered with those who carried out what I call a coup against the people's will.
But this coup against the people didn't stop there. The second round brought victory not to the Eurosceptic Simion, but to his opponent, Bucharest Mayor Nikușor Dănău. A completely establishment politician happy to do Mordor's bidding, that is, Brussels. And here the devil is in the details. Turnout in the second round was record-breaking, over 64%, which is 11 points higher than the first. And of course, all these voters didn't vote for Simion. And we have Sandu to thank again. She not only openly supported Dan, but apparently made sure that Romanians living in Moldova made the right choice. And France also got involved. This became known thanks to a certain Telegram founder.
I think Nikușor Dănău owes Maia Sandu. She did him a favor, so he should return the favor. I think one way he'll do that is by organizing similar voting for Moldova's parliamentary elections on Romanian territory. Simion wouldn't help there, at least, but these people will help. Just like they did in the Romanian presidential election in Moldova. There were 64 polling stations, busing, violations, over 80% of the votes. Romanians will help the same way.
At first, Simion accepted defeat, but then he realized something was off. he called on his supporters to defend democracy and freedom in the country. They realized they couldn't bear their favorite candidate's loss and decided to do a kind of civic harakiri, dramatically cutting up their passports. The ex-candidate himself also decided not to sit idly by. He took the well-trodden path and appealed to the Constitutional Court to annul the election results.
Interference by Moldova and France, as well as non-state actors, has been proven. The Supreme Court and Constitutional Court must take this evidence into account. Fraud was committed by adding extra votes for my opponent and through the influence of these state and non-state actors.
By the way, the previously mentioned Pavel Durov is ready to offer his support. He assured that if necessary, he'll come to Bucharest and give all the needed testimony. Meanwhile, Romanians keep expressing their discontent however they can. They're collecting signatures on petitions to strip Moldovan residents of Romanian citizenship, and Sandu is first on the list. But honestly, the chances of this mini-revolution succeeding are close to zero. That's Western democracy for you.